Well, how are you doing? This is going to be called, this video is going to be called 60 flat nautical miles per degree. Because I'm going to go show, even though I've gone through this in my previous video, I'm going to go through it again just to show how this is completely impossible without the use of parallel zeniths. So I'm going to use diagrams from celestial navigation here, official diagrams. So here is the sun, here is the zenith from the observer, right? Here is the angle, right? And here is the zenith angle, okay? So this line here, right? This purple line here that I'll make it blue, right? This is the zenith distance, but here, right? This is the sun, but this is the co-altitude. So this is a co-altitude zenith distance, as the observer's zenith matches the altitude of the zenith, or the altitude of the celestial body. This is the GP down here, and this is the zenith from the GP to the celestial body. So the co-altitude has to match the the observer's co-altitude has to match the altitude of the celestial body, and and that way, when you're using 0 to 90 in degrees, you can have 1 minute of degree matching to 1 nautical mile on the surface of the Earth. But that requires like a box type system. So there is the observer zenith, there is the horizontal roof, that is the roof of the depression angle. Here is the zenith from the GPE up to the celestial body, and here is the horizontal baseline of the elevation angle. So we have an elevation angle, which is shown here, the solar altitude angle, here in kind of orange, and in the white here, with the blue roof, here, this is the depression angle. So the elevation angle has to have a horizontal baseline, and the depression angle has to have a horizontal roof. Right, that's the way it works. The depression angle will always, so this here will always match down here. That's how you can have 1 minute of degree matching 1 nautical mile. That's the only way it works. You need to have a matching roof and base. So the base of the elevation angle has to match the roof of the depression angle. And the only way for that to happen is through having parallel zeniths. You have to have parallel zeniths. It's a box style system. That's the only way it works. Otherwise, you can have, with diverging zeniths, which I will show in a minute, you can have a zenith distance, but your minutes of degree will never be matching the nautical miles, right? And when it comes to the heliocentric globe model, it's phenomenally out of whack. Okay, so I'm just going on to the next one here. Same thing, right? There's the observer zenith, right? Here is the horizontal baseline. Here is your elevation angle, right? Here is this is the GP. This is the zenith up to the star, right? And here is the co-altitude from here to the star zenith distance. So this is your depression angle. This is the elevation angle, and this is your depression angle. I'm just going to put it in here now, just so this. I'm glad this happened. I make this blue, right? Just for people that don't understand, the opposite of this of the of the elevation angle, the opposite side of the elevation angle is the zenith from the GP of the star. I don't know why people on the opposing side didn't understand that. It's so simple, but obviously there's a lot of people don't understand that. That's the zenith from the GP up to the celestial body. That is the opposite side of the right angle triangle. Okay, and then you have the outside, the depression angle, right? And that, so the once again, the horizontal baseline of the right angle triangle elevation angle, right? That has to match the roof of the depression angle, the zenith distance. Okay, so there's your altitude, there's your zenith distance. So this here has to match up there. And the only way for that to happen is for this here. This is the co-altitude right here. So I'm just gonna get a little thing here. Just to put it in here. Just that's where the co-altitude is. That's your co-altitude. Right? Where the blue circle is there. I'll make that maybe a different color. I'll make it white, maybe. Yeah, see it. That's your co-altitude right there. So between here and here, those altitudes are matching. So it doesn't matter if the star is 1,000,000 miles high or 1 mile high. It doesn't make any difference because you're using parallel zeniths. And so your observer's co-altitude is always going to match the altitude of the star, which means you'll, and how you know it always has to, it always will and always has to, because you're using elevation angles and depression angles. And the roof of the depression angle is always going to be horizontal. Same way as the base of the elevation angle is always going to be horizontal. And that's how 90 degrees works with nautical miles. That's how 1 minute of degree is equal to 1 nautical mile, right? And 1 degree is equal to 60 nautical miles. That's the only way it can work. It can't work without parallel zeniths. It's impossible to work any other way. If you, as I said, you can have a zenith distance using diverging zeniths, but they will never match nautical miles, because nautical miles are designed to work with a box style system. They have to work with the 90. So it's no good if your minutes of degree aren't matching a surface distance, then you can't use nautical miles. It's never going to work. Move on. Another one again. Here is circle of equal altitude, right? They're just showing it here, an example of it. Circle of equal altitude. These are all 60 degrees, all these. So here is this would be, let's say this is the star up here. Here is the GP. Here is the zenith to the star from the GP, right? And here is the observer, and the observer is zenith, right? Here is the co-altitude right there. So just get another little circle, right? Make it a bit smaller. Yeah, right there. That is the co-altitude. So that will match the altitude of the star. Once again, a box type system. Now in this it looks more like a rectangle. Rectangle is a box too. So same thing. This up here, this zenith distance up here, the roof of the depression angle, that has to match the the baseline of the elevation angle. That's how it works. How can you have for people who want to attack me attack this video? How can you have an elevation angle, right? And then using 90 degrees. So you're going to have 90 degrees at the observer and 90 degrees at the GP. You're going to have a horizontal baseline between, obviously, because you're using 90 at both places. You're using a horizontal baseline, right? So your elevation angle will be 60 degrees up to the star here. Let's say that's the star. So your depression angle is going to be 60 from 90, which is 30. So this here is going to be a 30 degree angle, depression angle. So how can you have a 30 degree depression angle, right, which will be, and then use 30 by 60 nautical miles, if you don't have your surface distance matching what the angle distance will be? Because you can't use minutes of degree to match nautical miles if you're not using a parallel zeniths. It just doesn't work. It's impossible to work. You can't do it without parallel zeniths. So here's another one. This is another celestial navigation one. Here's the sun. Here's the observer zenith. Here's the GP and the zenith up to the sun. Here is the angle up to the sun. And here I've completed the here with this purple line or whatever, the roof. That's the roof of the depression angle, and that'll be your, if this is 50 degrees, then that'll be 40. That'll be a 40 by 60 zenith distance. And how you know that is because the observer's zenith co-altitude is matching. Altitude is matching it's a co-altitude of the celestial body. So as I said before, celestial body can be any height, Doesn't matter if it's 1 mile or a million miles, because when you're using parallel zeniths, you don't ever have to worry about it. You know that your zenith distance is always going to be matching your horizontal nautical mile distance. Okay, last one then, before I go on to the thing, onto the the other program. Sorry. So observer zenith. Here we are, co-altitude. So this is the GP, what they call a sub point sometimes, down here. Here is the celestial body, right? This is from celestial navigation. I had to zoom in a bit because it's a bit pixelated. Observer zenith. See the way it's matching? See if it's co-altitude. See the way it's matching? It has to match the altitude of the star. It has to use parallel zeniths. So this is 60 degrees here. So here we have 1 degree equals 60 nautical miles on the Earth's surface. Okay, so 90 minus 60, because this is a 60 degree, gives you 30 degrees. So 30 degrees is 1800 nautical miles, zenith distance. So the zenith distance and using the depression angle would be absolutely pointless. It would make no sense. This whole system and process would make absolutely no sense if you're using diverging zeniths. None of it would make any sense. It wouldn't be usable. Nobody would use it. You have to have parallel zeniths. But on a globe, in the heliocentric model, you have a globe out, and that means all your zeniths are going to diverge. But in reality, you have to use parallel zeniths, which means the Earth has to be flat. There's no other way around it. You can't use parallel zeniths and claim a globe. Can't be done. You have to use diverging zeniths on a globe. But in reality, celestial navigation have to and do use, and the same with astronomy and all that, they all use parallel zeniths. But celestial navigation, they can't not use parallel zeniths if they want to have 1 minute of degree matching 1 nautical mile. There's no way around it. So, going to here, that was the name of GeoGebra. I can never say that. GeoGebra. It's so it's just a program there. So if I'm just going to go in here a bit, right? So here is right. There's the observer. Here, right? And here is the GP, right? So on a globe, what you do, right, is you have to first establish a horizontal plane, a tangential plane or tangent plane. Now that means that once you say that you're establishing a tangential plane or a tangent plane, horizontal plane, you're instantly admitting that the process you're going to try and do can't be done on a curved surface. So this circle representing a globe underneath this tangential plane, this just make-believe, doesn't work. Because if you have to use a tangential plane, it means you can't do the process on a curved surface, which means that you have to use a flat Earth and then try and use maths to make it a curved surface afterwards, right? To match your heliocentric model. But it's only fluff, it's only apologetics, mathematical apologetics for what you can't do, which is use a spherical surface. You can't do that. You can't do celestial navigation. Doing that, if you could, you would never need a tangential plane. Can't do it without a tangential plane because you have to use reality. And reality means horizontal baseline, flat Earth. But either way, this is how it works, right? This is the angle the observer takes, right? And then what they do mathematically, right, to match where the GP would be on the surface of the sphere, they then take the angle and bring it straight down to the center, down to the equatorial plane. So once again, to do the angle, they need a flat plane, which is the equatorial plane, right? Let's just say, right, the equatorial, or they'll make an equatorial plane through the Earth. It depends on where the observer is. The observer could be. This may not be the equatorial plane, but we'll just state for the moment that this observer is up in near the North Pole and they're taking an angle to a star out here. And once they bring the angle down to the center of their globe, doesn't have to be at the equatorial plane, but they will create a plane through the globe mathematically. And then once that same exact angle, then because they know, because of flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris, they know, right? They have been able to back engineer the distances along the surface, right? So they're able to know that that this same angle, right, brought this same angle here, when they bring it here into here, they know that wherever that comes out at on the surface of their globe mathematically, that will match the GP, right? Mathematically. So from here to here will be the surface distance, right? Or that would be the surface distance along a flat plane. So really it would be like something like that, or maybe a bit more actually, because it would be more than that, because it's a curved line, so it'll be up to there, right? So the GP would be more like up here. But either way, right? The point is that that's what they do. It's a back engineering, it's mathematical back engineering, right? Now, how they got this, how they got to know that this works, is that they were taking elevation angles from, let's say, to Polaris. Let's just say, give me a line here. Let me see, where's the lines gone? Right, line, right. So let's say Polaris is up here. They take an elevation angle to Polaris, right? And they'd note at their distance how Polaris appears to drop in the sky. And they'd know from the angle, using parallel zeniths, the zenith of Polaris here, right? And their own zenith here, they will use co-altitude, right? And know that the angle, right, they could, that's how they formulated nautical miles. It's a flat earth formulation, right? And once they had that, they then could mathematically go and back engineer it into the center of their globe. And that's how they can now use maths to use an angle. This, let's just say, if this was this angle was, let's just say it's going to, so let's go back there. Let's just say this angle here was this. They would then put that into the center here. So they kind of match what they'll match the angle here. They'll reverse the angle into the center of a circle, and they will curve then this horizontal baseline. And that way they can get the GP. They will know that distance from here to here. They will know that along the surface of a circle, right? Because it's all circles. That's how it has to work, right? So, but it all starts on a flat plane. It's all based on a flat plane. All the distances along the surface of the globe are all based on a flat plane. They wouldn't know the distances, and they wouldn't have a dual radii for their globe Earth without flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris. Right? There is no, the only way you can gain that information is through those flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris, which we'll be using, just so people know, which we'll be using, right, parallel zeniths, right, to get your depression angle the roof of your depression angle to match what's going on the surface. So that's what they're going to do, right? So they had to use the box system and use parallel zeniths to create a globe, mathematical globe, that they can then pretend they're using diverging zeniths. But anyway, I'll go back just away from there. Okay, so here is, you have your angle from the center, and it's going to come out, and right here you have that angle from the center is the GP, the subsolar point or whatever, the sub point of the celestial body. Now, this is the thing about it, right? Here is an angle from the observer, right? Now, in the globe model, because they believe that that light from stars and the sun and different things all comes in parallel, because these things are so big and far away, but they're so huge that all this parallel light comes in, right? So they just make a parallel from the center of their globe to find the GP. But this is ridiculous and nonsense, because this angle here, that is actually, right, this angle here that they couldn't get without a tangential plane, right? This angle here, right, then this should become, from this point, this then should become their the roof of their depression angle, right? So this should become that, right? But the problem is that that is no good, because that is not a distance to, see this gap here? That's not a distance to, right? See that? They're not, that is losing that, the very thing you're looking to find out, which is the distance from the observer to the GP. That won't do you any good. you'll never get the observer's distance to the G, because there it is. You'll never have it, right? If you're only bringing it to where your angle is, where your angle line is. So there's another reason why none of this works on a globe, because you won't. The very thing you're doing it for is to get a zenith distance. You can't do it for, because you don't know your zenith distance, because you don't know your surface distance, because you have to get a zenith distance to know your surface distance, and your zenith distance is no good to you, because it doesn't even go to sorry, let's go back there. It doesn't even go. Your zenith distance is is no your zenith distance is not correct, because you're not actually at the zenith of from the GP. So you must now take that and bring it over there. But they don't do that, right? They don't do that, right? What do? They let's see if I can move this whole thing around. I gotta get another line, right? So really what you should be doing is not really, in reality, what should be happening is none of this, right? Because you don't have, there is your depression angle, but it's no good to you, because it doesn't bring you anywhere. Do you understand what I mean? There is nowhere to go with that. It doesn't give you a distance to the G from the observer to the GP. That's the first problem. The second problem you have, right, much bigger problem, is this. So if I take this and I take a line over to here, right? Now you have a distance from here, which is from the the zenith from the GP to the zenith of the observer, right? Brilliant. Now you have a zenith distance, right? But there is the problem. The problem is this, right? I'm just going to try and color this in a bit different. See if we can color in orange, maybe. No, not that one. This one. I'm not going to waste my time. I'm just going to put it in green. Right. So the green to the blue, that is your actual zenith distance. But the angle you took off the surface off of the globe here from your tangent plane, something that you need because you can't use the spherical surface, that was no good to you. So you needed this one, right? The goes from the zenith from the GP, right, and the zenith from the observer. But here's the problem: if this zenith from the observer has to match, this has to match the co-altitude of the distance from the surface of the of the star, the celestial body, whatever, the sun. So in the globe model, if this star here is 50 light years away, then the distance that the observer's zenith needs to be is 50 light years. Do you understand? It doesn't work, right? So because the distance between those zeniths then is probably 60 light years or something, 70 light years, who knows? It could be any amount, right? So you don't have 1 minute of degree matching 1 nautical mile anymore. You don't have that anymore. You have 60 light years. That's no good to you. And with the angle you took anyway in the first place is a good to you, because you can't even find your distance from the observer to the GP with that, because it doesn't go anywhere. You don't even go. You're only trying to make a parallel with the zenith from the GP. So your angle is never in your angle is never involving the zenith from the GP. It's never involving the star correctly, because you need to use the zeniths. So your 60 light year angle, because that's what it's going to be. Your zenith distance is now 60 light years. It won't match 1 nautical mile. 1 minute of degree to 1 nautical mile, because your zeniths are diverging. You can't have diverging zeniths. This is why it doesn't work. If it worked, then there wouldn't be an argument. But it doesn't work because it's nonsense. You can't have diverging zeniths. They don't work. This is why. Because you can't have 60 light years of a zenith distance. How are you going to put 60 light years of a distance on the surface of your globe? Can't. Or on anything. Can't. The distance is too monstrous. So you'll never match what's going on the surface. So this is why this whole thing here is a farce. So I'm just going to go down here. Here is 2 parallel zeniths, right? This will be the star, right? This would be the GP. Here is the zenith from the GP up to the star. Here is the observer and the zenith up to match the co-altitude of the star. So if we get another line, and we just go from here and bring it over to there. Now, our angle here, whether it be, let's just say it's 45 degrees, that would mean that our elevation angle is 45 degrees, right? It's make it a right angle triangle, right? Meeting the opposite, right? This opposite the zenith from the GP. So now you know that your depression angle is 45 degrees. So your zenith distance, because you have parallel zeniths and you're using co-altitudes, right? You then know that your zenith distance is 2,700 nautical miles, because you have 2,700 minutes of degree. But you can only have that with parallel zeniths. You can't have it any other way. It will not work any other way. That's the only way you know that you have 1 minute of degree matching 1 nautical mile. There is no other way to do it without parallel zeniths. If anyone on our opposing side want to make a video in response to this on how diverging zeniths match 1 minute of degree for 1 nautical mile, then they have best of luck to them. But they have to take the co-altitude into account. You can't just put your angle up to a star in the heliocentric model and then try and do a shorter zenith distance. It doesn't work like that. Your zenith distance has to go from your angle. Your angle creates the depression angle, and creates the roof of the depression angle. So your elevation angle creates the depression angle and the roof of the depression angle. This here, if I just kind of highlight it, maybe I can do it, right? This here, this red line, that is your the roof of your depression angle. That always has to match this one here, always, right? So I just make that green. So the red line always has to match the green line. Otherwise, it's no good to you. Can't use them. Okay? Thank you.